The silver chains binding. Kael Thorne's wrists gleam red with his own blood as he kneels on the execution platform, violet eyes burning with defiance, even as the crowd screams for his death. 3 days until the full moon, 3 days since the bloodiest massacre in Ravencrest's history, and every soul in the packed town square believes they're watching justice served. What none of them know is that the real monster walks free among them, hidden behind a smile. The autumn wind whips through the valley, carrying the scent of fear and hatred from the 1,000-strong crowd gathered in Ravencrest Central Square. Wooden platforms creak under the weight of eager spectators, their voices rising in a cacophony of rage and bloodlust. Children perch on their fathers' shoulders to get a better view. Vendors hawk roasted nuts and ale, as if this were a festival rather than an execution. At the center of it all, on a raised stone dais that has seen too much death, Kael Thorne waits for sunrise. The chains are spelled silver, blessed by the town's high priest, and forged specifically to hold an alpha werewolf. Each link burns against his skin like acid, but Kael doesn't flinch. His massive frame, even kneeling, towers over the guards flanking him. Dark hair falls in waves around a face that would be handsome, if not for the hard lines carved by years of violence and leadership. His violet eyes, an anomaly that marked him as different from birth, scan the crowd with predatory calculation, "Look at those eyes!" someone shouts from the mob. "Devil's eyes, unnatural." "Burn him," another voice cries. "Hanging's too good for what he's done." Mayor Aldrich Voss steps forward, his ceremonial robes billowing dramatically in the wind. A man who's never missed a meal in his 60 years, soft where Kael is hard, weak where the alpha is strong. His voice carries across the square with practiced authority. "Citizens of Ravencrest," he begins, raising jeweled hands for silence. "We gather today to witness justice for the most heinous crime in our town's history. This beast," he gestures toward Kael with obvious disgust, "slaughtered 18 innocent souls. Men, women, children, torn apart like animals in their own homes." The crowd roars approval. Kael's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "The evidence is overwhelming," Voss continues. "Witnesses saw his wolf form fleeing the scene. His scent was found at every murder site. And when our brave hunters cornered him in the Thornwood, he fought like the savage animal he truly is." "Liar." Kael's voice cuts through the mayor's speech like a blade. Though quiet, it carries with the commanding tone of an alpha, making several people in the front rows step back instinctively. Voss's face purples. "Silence. You'll have your chance to confess before the rope takes you." "I confess to nothing because I've done nothing," Kael replies evenly. "But you already know that, don't you, Mayor? After all, it's hard to commit murder when you're chained in your own dungeon." Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Confusion flickers across some faces. Doubt. Voss raises his voice to drown them out. "The ravings of a desperate killer. Guards found you covered in blood." "My own blood," Kael says. "From the beatings your men gave me." The crowd's energy shifts slightly, not toward sympathy. There's still too much fear and anger for that, but toward uncertainty. Several townspeople exchange glances. A few remember that the timing never quite made sense. How could Kael have been in 3 different parts of town simultaneously during the attacks? Captain Henrik Drayton, commander of the town guard, steps beside the mayor. His scarred face bears the marks of countless battles, and his reputation for ruthless efficiency is well known. Unlike Voss, there's no softness in him, only cold pragmatism. "Enough delays," Drayton declares. "The sentence was passed. Dawn breaks in minutes, and this creature hangs with the sun." He signals to his men, who begin checking the noose with professional competence. The crowd leans forward eagerly. Blood and spectacle, exactly what they came for. But Kael isn't watching the preparations for his death. His attention has shifted to the crowd itself, violet eyes searching faces with desperate intensity, as if he's looking for something, or someone. "Where is she?" he murmurs, so quietly only the guards beside him can hear. "Where is who?" one of them asks mockingly. "Your pack? They abandoned you, Wolf. No one's coming to save you." Kael's lips curve, in what might be a smile, if it weren't so full of dangerous promise. "She'll come." The guard laughs. Delusional to the end, fitting for a monster. As the sun begins to paint the eastern sky with fingers of gold and crimson, the crowd grows restless. Soon, very soon, they'll have their justice. Or what they believe to be justice. None of them notice the young woman in a hooded cloak standing at the very back of the crowd, her entire body trembling as she stares at the chained figure on the platform. None of them catch the scent of wild roses and moonlight that begins to drift through the square, growing stronger with each passing moment. None of them see the way Kael's head suddenly lifts, nostrils flaring as that familiar scent reaches him across the distance. None of them are prepared for what's about to happen when true love faces impossible odds. The scent hits Kael like a physical blow, wild roses blooming under moonlight, cedar smoke, and something uniquely her. His head snaps up, violet eyes scanning the crowd with newfound intensity. After 3 days of despair, hope floods his system like liquid fire. Lyra. She stands at the very edge of the square, hood pulled low over distinctive silver-white hair that marks her as moon-touched. Even from this distance, he can sense her terror, her desperate love, her absolute refusal to let him die alone. The bond between them pulses like a second heartbeat, stronger than the spelled chains burning his wrists. The sun rises, Mayor Voss announces triumphantly. Justice shall be served. But someone in the crowd has begun to whisper. An elderly woman near the platform, her voice carrying despite its frail quality. Wait, she calls out, surprising herself with her boldness. Something's not right about this. All eyes turn to grandmother, Iris Blackwood, the town's oldest resident and its unofficial keeper of memories. Her weathered hands clutch a wooden walking stick as she shuffles forward, her milky eyes fixed on Kael with unsettling intensity. You be quiet, old woman, Captain Drayton snaps. This is no place for your senile ramblings. Senile? Iris's voice gains strength. I've lived in this town for 93 years, boy. I remember when your grandfather was in diapers, and I remember every violent death we've ever had. She points a gnarled finger at the mayor. And I remember that Kael Thorne was locked in your dungeon when those murders happened. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Several people nod. They remember seeing the guards drag the unconscious Alpha through the streets 2 days before the killings began. He escaped, Voss sputters. Obviously he... From a cell warded with mountain ash and blessed silver? Iris cackles. Not even an Alpha can break those bonds, and you know it. I helped your father ward that cell myself, 40 years ago. Kael watches this unexpected ally with gratitude, but his attention keeps drifting to Lyra. She's moved closer, though still hidden in the crowd. He can feel her internal struggle, the desperate need to reveal herself warring against the knowledge that doing so will likely mean both their deaths. The old crone speaks nonsense, Drayton declares. The evidence is clear. Wolf scent at every scene. Witnesses who saw his beast form. What witnesses? Iris demands. Name them. An uncomfortable silence falls. Drayton exchanges glances with the mayor, both men suddenly looking less certain. Well? Iris presses. If you have witnesses, produce them. Let them speak before you murder an innocent man. Innocent? A woman's voice shrieks from the crowd. My husband is dead. My children are dead. Someone must pay. The crowd roars agreement, bloodlust overriding doubt. But the seed has been planted. Several people are looking uncertain now, whispering among themselves. The timeline doesn't make sense. The evidence feels too convenient. Grandmother. A younger voice speaks up. Thomas Ashford, the blacksmith's son. Barely 20, but respected for his honest nature. You're saying the Alpha couldn't have done it? Iris turns her clouded gaze on him. I'm saying that boy has been in chains since 2 days before the first murder. Unless he's learned to be in 2 places at once, he's innocent as a newborn babe. Then who? Thomas asks. Who killed them all? The question hangs in the air like smoke. Kael's eyes find Lyra again, and this time she's pushed back her hood slightly. Her face is pale with terror, but her silver eyes burn with determination. She knows the answer. They both do. It doesn't matter, Voss shouts desperately. The creature is dangerous regardless. Look at those unnatural eyes. Devil's eyes. He's an abomination that threatens our very way of life, but his words ring hollow now. The crowd's energy is shifting, uncertainty replacing bloodthirst. Not completely. There's still plenty of hatred and fear, but doubt has taken root. If he's innocent, calls another voice, then the real killer is still out there. A chill runs through the square. Parents pull their children closer. The festive atmosphere evaporates as people realize they might have been celebrating the death of an innocent man while the true monster walks free among them. Kael tests his bond subtly. Still secure, still burning, but he can feel Lyra's presence like sunlight after endless winter. Whatever happens next, he won't face it alone. "This is madness," Captain Drayton snarls, his hand moving to his sword. "The sentence has been passed by lawful authority. It will be carried out." He signals to the executioner, who steps forward with professional calm. The crowd teeters on the edge of chaos, some calling for the execution to proceed, others demanding answers first. And in the growing tumult, few notice the hooded figure beginning to push through the crowd. Few catch the scent of wild roses growing stronger. Few see the way the condemned alpha's eyes have begun to glow with something that isn't quite human. But Lyra sees, and she knows that the time for hiding is almost over. Whether her people are ready or not, the truth is about to come to light. "Stop." The word tears from Lyra's throat with the force of absolute authority, cutting through the chaos like a blade through silk. Conversations die mid-sentence. Children stop crying. Even the wind seems to pause. She stands now at the front of the crowd, hood fallen back to reveal hair like spun moonlight, and eyes that glow with their own silver fire. Every person in the square can feel the power radiating from her small frame, not threatening, but undeniable. "That man is innocent," she declares, her voice carrying to every corner of the square despite its quiet intensity. "And I can prove it." And Mayor Voss turns purple with rage. "Who are you to interrupt official proceedings? Guards, arrest this." "I am Lyra Nightwind," she interrupts, and several of the older townspeople gasp in recognition. "Daughter of Lyra Nightwind, the healer who delivered half your children and saved the rest when plague struck 5 years ago." The crowd shifts uncomfortably. Lyra Nightwind had been beloved in Ravencrest, known for her gentle nature and miraculous healing abilities. She died in the recent attacks, trying to protect the children in her care. "Grandmother was a saint," Grandmother Iris calls out. "But that doesn't give you the right to—" "My mother was murdered," Lyra says simply, and the words hit like physical blows, along with the 18 children she was sheltering that night. "I know because I was there." Complete silence falls over the square. Even Captain Drayton's hand stills on his sword hilt. "Impossible," Voss whispers. "No one survived the orphanage attack. We found 19 bodies." 18. Lyra corrects. "You found 18 bodies. I survived because my mother hid me in the root cellar and died buying me time to escape." Her voice never wavers, but tears stream down her face. "And I saw the creature that killed them all." Kael's bonds strain as every muscle in his body tenses. He knows what's coming, knows the danger she's putting herself in, but he's powerless to stop it. "It wasn't him," Lyra says, pointing at Kael. "The killer wore the shape of a wolf, yes, but it was wrong somehow. Too large, too vicious, and its eyes." She shudders. Its eyes were human, cold and calculating and full of cruel pleasure. "Lies!" Voss shouts. "Trauma has addled your mind, girl. You couldn't possibly—" "It spoke to my mother before it killed her," Lyra continues relentlessly. In a human voice while wearing a wolf's body, it told her this was punishment for harboring unnatural children. Children who showed signs of magic, of gifts beyond normal human understanding. A murmur of unease ripples through the crowd. Everyone knows there are those born with unusual abilities, healers, seers, beast speakers. They're generally tolerated, even valued, but there have always been some who view such gifts with suspicion. "You're describing a skinwalker." Grandmother Iris breathes, her face gone pale. "An abomination that wears stolen shapes." "No," Thomas Ashford says thoughtfully. "She's describing something worse. A corrupted werewolf. One that's lost its human soul but kept its human mind. Several people cross themselves or make warding signs. These are creatures of nightmare, things that exist at the very edges of their world's darkness. Even if true," Captain Drayton says, though his voice lacks its earlier certainty. How do we know this Thorne isn't exactly such a creature? How do we know you're not lying to save your lover? The accusation hangs heavy in the air. Lyra's face flames, but she doesn't deny the relationship. Instead, she does something that shocks everyone present. She rolls up her left sleeve, revealing her bare forearm to the crowd. Etched into her pale skin in silver ink that seems to shimmer with its own light is an intricate pattern, a wolf's head surrounded by phases of the moon. This is a mate bond, she announces. Freely given, freely accepted. It can only form between true mates, and it can only exist when both souls are pure. She looks directly at Kael, love blazing in her silver eyes. If Kael were the monster you claim, this mark would burn me alive. Instead, one in a next with said. She places her marked arm against her heart, and the tattoo flares with gentle silver light, warm and beautiful. The crowd stares in amazement. Even those with no magical knowledge can sense the love and purity radiating from the mark. It's impossible to fake, impossible to corrupt. She's telling the truth, Iris whispers. Sweet goddess above, she's telling the truth. But Voss isn't finished. Mate bonds can be faked by those skilled enough in dark magic. He snarls. And even if real, it proves nothing. Monsters can inspire obsession. Then let him speak for himself? Lyra challenges. Remove his gag and let the people hear his voice. Let them judge his character with their own hearts. Absolutely not, Drayton snaps. He could use alpha voice to compel. Alpha voice doesn't work on unwilling subjects, Thomas interjects. Everyone knows that. It can only enhance what's already there, turn respect into loyalty, affection into love. It can't create feelings from nothing. The crowd is fully engaged now, the execution temporarily forgotten in favor of this fascinating debate. Kael watches his mate with fierce pride, amazed by her courage, even as he fears for her safety. Do it. Calls someone from the crowd. Let him speak. Let him defend himself. We want to hear his side. The chant builds until even Voss realizes he has no choice. With obvious reluctance, he nods to the guards, who remove the leather gag from Kael's mouth. Kael works his jaw carefully, then looks out at the crowd with steady violet eyes. When he speaks, his voice is calm, clear, and utterly lacking in the supernatural compulsion some had feared. My name is Kael Thorne, he begins. Alpha of the Thornwood Pack, protector of this valley for 7 years, and mate to the bravest woman I've ever known. His eyes find Lyra's, and I swear by the bond between us that I did not kill those people. The simple honesty in his words hits the crowd like a physical force. This is not the voice of a monster or a madman. This is someone telling the truth. But the revelation has consequences neither Kael nor Lyra anticipated. In the crowd, a figure begins to move, slipping toward the back of the square with purposeful stealth. The real killer knows his time is running out. Tell us what happened. Grandmother Iris calls out, her walking stick tapping against the cobblestones as she moves closer to the platform. From the beginning, Kael's throat works, still raw from the gag. 3 nights ago, I was returning from patrol when something hit me from behind. I woke up in Mayor Voss's dungeon with no memory of how I got there. His violet eyes sweep the crowd. The next thing I knew, Captain Drayton was telling me I was a monster who'd slaughtered innocents. What were you patrolling for? Thomas asks, his blacksmith's practical nature cutting straight to useful questions. Strange sense. Wrong sense. Kael's voice takes on a grim tone. For weeks, something had been leaving markings on trees throughout the valley. Not pack boundaries, something else. Something that smelled of death and madness. Several hunters in the crowd nod grimly. They've noticed the signs too, but hadn't known what to make of them. I was tracking the source when I was attacked, Kael continues. Whatever took me down was strong enough to overwhelm an alpha from behind. That's not easy to do. Lyra steps closer to the platform, close enough now that the silver bond on her arm pulses in rhythm with Kael's heartbeat. The creature that killed my mother was massive, she adds, larger than any natural wolf, with muscles that rippled wrong under its fur. And it moved with intelligence, herding the children into corners, making sure none could escape. You saw its face? Captain Drayton asks. and for the first time, his tone lacks hostility. Professional curiosity has replaced blind conviction. I saw its eyes, Lyra replies with a shudder. Human eyes in a wolf's skull. They were familiar, somehow. Like I'd seen them before, but not in that form. The crowd murmurs uneasily. Several people glance around suspiciously, wondering if the real killer might still be among them. Mayor Voss, looking increasingly desperate, tries to regain control. Even if we accept this fantastical tale, it changes nothing. We have a dangerous predator loose among us. Yes, Kael interrupts quietly. We do, but it's not me. His simple agreement catches everyone off guard. There's no defensiveness, no anger at being falsely accused, just grim acknowledgement of the real threat. You know who it is, Lyra breathes, reading something in his expression. Don't you? Kael hesitates, then nods slowly. I have suspicions, but without proof. What suspicions? Grandmother Iris demands. At 93, she's earned the right to blunt questions. The attacks weren't random, Kael explains. They targeted specific people. Lyra Nightwind, who healed those others called unnatural. Old Marcus Ironwood, who provided sanctuary to refugees. The Ashford family at the mill, who gave work to anyone, regardless of background. He pauses. All people known for tolerance and acceptance. Thomas goes rigid. My cousins, they were among the victims. Your cousins who never turned away a hungry traveler? Kael confirms gently. Your cousins who taught their children that differences make people interesting, not dangerous. A pattern begins emerging in the crowd's collective memory. All the victims had been known for kindness to outsiders, for acceptance of those who were different, for protection of the vulnerable. Someone's been systematically eliminating tolerance. Lyra realizes aloud, trying to make this town afraid of anyone who isn't exactly like them. Power. But who would? Thomas begins, then stops. His face goes pale as understanding dawns. Others are reaching the same conclusion. Whispered. Conversations spring up throughout the square, as people remember who had spoken most loudly against unnatural influences in recent months, who had pushed hardest for stricter laws against outsiders, who had the most to gain from a town united by fear and hatred. Mayor Voss realizes the mood is shifting against him and plays his final card. This is all speculation. We need evidence, not wild theories. And regardless of guilt or innocence in these recent crimes, Kael Thorne remains a dangerous predator. His very nature, Lyra interrupts, is to protect. For 7 years, his pack has kept this valley safe from bandits, rogue spirits, and worse things that hunt in darkness. How many of your children have made it home safely because his wolves patrol the forest roads? How many of your merchants travel without fear because his territory is well defended? Nods throughout the crowd. They'd taken the peace for granted, but Lyra's right. The Thornwood Pack's protection has been invisible but constant. A guardian, Iris muses, studying Kael with new eyes. Not a monster, a guardian. Exactly, Thomas says, his voice growing stronger. My own daughter encountered wolves in the forest last winter when she got lost during that blizzard. They didn't attack her, they led her home. Kept her warm, until she reached our door. My son too, calls another voice. Fell through ice on Miller's Pond. Wolves pulled him out, stayed with him until help came. More stories emerge. Quiet rescues, subtle protections, small kindnesses that painted a very different picture of the Thornwood Pack than the one being promoted by certain authorities. Captain Drayton listens with growing unease. As a military man, he recognizes tactical intelligence when he hears it. These rescue patterns, he says slowly, they show organization, planning, a protective network operating throughout the valley. That's what alphas do, Lyra explains. They protect their territory and everyone in it, pack members. Yes, but also the innocent and vulnerable. She looks directly at Kael. It's not just instinct. It's choice. Every day, he chooses to use his strength to shelter rather than dominate. The chains binding Kael's wrists suddenly seem less like necessary restraints and more like cruel mockery. This man, this alpha, has been safeguarding their community while they slept peacefully in their beds. If he's innocent, Someone calls out? Then who's guilty? But before anyone can answer, a commotion erupts at the back of the square. Shouts of alarm, the sound of running feet, a horse's panicked neighing. "He's getting away!" a voice screams. "The mayor's getting away!" All eyes turn to see Aldrich Voss spurring a horse toward the forest edge, his ceremonial robes billowing behind him like dark wings. His flight is admission of guilt more damning than any confession. And in that moment, everything clicks into place. Captain Henrik Drayton stares at the fleeing figure of Mayor Voss with the expression of a man watching his entire worldview crumble. His scarred hand moves instinctively to his sword hilt, military training overriding personal shock. "Riders," he barks at his men. "Full pursuit, bring him back alive." But even as his guards scramble to obey, Drayton knows they won't catch Voss in time. The mayor has too much of a head start, and he knows these woods better than most. Still, the captain's mind is already working through implications, connecting dots that should have been obvious from the beginning. "The timing," he mutters, more to himself than anyone else. "The convenient evidence professed, the witnesses who never appeared." He turns to face Kael, his expression grim but no longer hostile. "I should have seen it sooner, grandmother." Iris hobbles over to stand beside him, her milky eyes surprisingly sharp. "We all should have, Captain. But fear makes us stupid sometimes. Makes us want simple answers to complicated problems." The crowd watches this exchange with growing tension. Their mayor, the man who's led their town for nearly a decade, has just fled like a common criminal. The implications are staggering. "He played us," Thomas Ashford says, his voice heavy with disgust. "All of us. Made us so afraid and angry we stopped thinking clearly." Lyra moves closer to the platform, her silver eyes never leaving Kael's face. "The real question is why. What did he gain from framing an innocent man?" Captain Drayton's tactical mind supplies the answer. "Control. Fear unites people, makes them willing to surrender freedoms for the promise of safety." With Thorne dead and his pack scattered, Voss would be the only authority left. The only one offering protection racket. Kael says quietly, and there's bitter understanding in his voice. "Create the problem, then sell the solution." The captain nods grimly. And if anyone questioned his methods or policies, well, look what happened to those who showed too much tolerance or independence. They became victims of the monster. The pieces fall together with horrifying clarity. Voss hadn't just framed Kael. He'd systematically murdered anyone who might oppose his growing authoritarianism. Person, the kindest, most accepting members of the community, eliminated one by one. "My mother," Lyra whispers, tears streaming down her face. "She died because she wouldn't turn away children who were different, because she refused to see magic as evil." Drayton's expression hardens further. As a military man, he's seen political monsters before, but rarely this close to home. "The skinwalker abilities," he says. "How? Voss was born here, grew up human." "Dark magic," Iris replies with certainty. "The kind that requires blood sacrifice and willingness to surrender your humanity. It's been growing stronger in recent years. Old books speak of such transformations." A chill runs through the assembled crowd. They'd always known Voss was ambitious, perhaps ruthless in business dealings, but this level of calculated evil is beyond their experience. "Captain," Kael says, his voice carefully neutral, "I need those chains removed." Drayton hesitates for a heartbeat, years of protocol warring with newfound understanding. Then he looks at the silver bond glowing on Lyra's arm, thinks of the fleeing mayor, and makes his decision. "Do it," he orders his men. "Carefully. Those are spelled silver. They'll burn like acid until they're completely off." As the guards work with blessed oil to neutralize the spell work, Drayton steps closer to Kael. "I owe you an apology, Alpha. And an explanation. You followed the evidence as it was presented." Kael replies, though his jaw is tight with pain as the chains come free. Voss was thorough in his deception. No excuse. Drayton's voice is harsh with self-recrimination. "I let prejudice cloud my judgment. Saw what I expected to see instead of what was actually there." He pauses. "I've served in enough wars to know the difference between soldiers and monsters. You're clearly the former." The admission costs him, but it's sincere. The crowd can hear the genuine regret in his voice. What now? Thomas asks. Voss is gone. Probably has contingency plans. This might not end with his capture. Kael flexes his freed hands, violet eyes already tracking toward the forest where Voss disappeared. Now we hunt. But properly this time. No rushing in blind, no assumptions. He looks at Drayton. I'll need my pack, and I'll need your cooperation. You have it, the captain says without hesitation. What do you need? Safe passage for my wolves when they arrive. They'll come at my call, but they'll be nervous around this many humans after what's happened. Drayton nods. My word as an officer, no harm will come to your pack while you're working to protect this town. And I'll need her protected. Kael continues, his gaze finding Lyra. If Voss is truly what we think he is, she's the only witness who can identify him in his corrupted form. That makes her a target. She'll have my personal guard, Drayton promises. Around the clock until this is resolved. But Lyra shakes her head. I'm not hiding while that thing is loose. I'm the only one who's seen it, the only one who might be able to track it. Her silver eyes blaze with determination. Quote, my mother died protecting children from that monster. I won't dishonor her memory by cowering now. Kael's expression shows both pride and terror. Lyra. No, she interrupts. We're mates, remember? That means we stand together. Equal partners, equal risks. The bond mark on her arm flares with silver light, responding to her conviction. Even those in the crowd, with no magical sensitivity, can feel the power of her declaration. Grandmother Iris cackles with approval. That's Elena's daughter, all right. Brave to the bone and twice as stubborn. Captain Drayton looks between the alpha and his mate, sees the unshakable determination in both their faces, and makes a tactical decision. Then we do this together. Coordinated effort, professional planning, no unnecessary risks. He turns to address the crowd. This town has been betrayed by the man we trusted to lead us. But we're not helpless. We have protectors who've been safeguarding us for years, and now we have a chance to repay that service. The crowd's mood has shifted completely. Where there was bloodthirst and fear an hour ago, now there's grim resolve and growing unity. They've been manipulated, used, turned against their true protector. The shame burns, but it's being transformed into determination. What do you need from us? Thomas calls out, speaking for many. Kael straightens to his full, imposing height. Chains gone, natural authority restored. Spread the word. Voss may try to return in disguise, may attempt to eliminate witnesses or cover his tracks. No one travels alone after dark. Report anything unusual immediately. And remember, Lyra adds, her voice carrying clearly across the square, the real monster wears a familiar face. Trust your instincts, not your assumptions. As the crowd begins to disperse, energized by purpose instead of hatred, Captain Drayton approaches Kael one more time. Alpha, there's something else. Something I probably should have mentioned earlier. Kael raises an eyebrow. 3 of my men never returned from the search parties sent after you. I assumed they'd deserted rather than face a dangerous predator. Drayton's expression is grim. Power. Now I'm wondering if they found something they weren't supposed to see. No, the implications hang heavy in the morning air. Voss hadn't just framed Kael, he'd been systematically eliminating anyone who might uncover the truth. Then we're not just hunting a corrupt politician, Kael says quietly. We're hunting a serial killer who's had months to perfect his methods. And somewhere in the dark forest beyond Ravencrest, Aldrich Voss is planning his next move. 2 weeks pass in what feels like a golden dream. Kael's pack has returned to the valley, 6 powerful wolves who move through Ravencrest like benevolent shadows. The townspeople, initially nervous, quickly warm to their quiet presence. Children wave at the great beasts from safe distances. Merchants travel the forest roads with renewed confidence. And elderly folks sleep better, knowing ancient predators stand guard outside their doors. The Thornwood pack has established a temporary den in the old mill house, with Kael maintaining both human and wolf forms as he coordinates patrols with Captain Drayton's forces. The cooperation between human military precision and lupine instinct proves devastatingly effective. Within days, they've mapped every hiding place within 50 miles, cataloged every scent trail, and established a security network that would make professional armies envious. Lyra moves between both worlds with natural grace, translating when communication falters and using her healer's training to tend both human soldiers and wolf warriors. Her silver bond mark has become a symbol of hope for the townspeople, proof that different species can not only coexist, but create something stronger together. "You're glowing," Grandmother Iris observes one afternoon, as Lyra organizes medical supplies in the town's healing center. "Like moonlight made flesh." Lyra blushes but can't deny it. The constant presence of her mate, the acceptance of the community, the purpose, driving their daily work, it all combines into a sense of rightness she's never experienced before. For the first time since her mother's death, she feels truly at home. "The bond is strengthening," she admits, absently touching the mark on her arm. "Being together, working together. It's like we were meant for this." "So, you were," Iris says, with certainty. "Some souls are forged in pairs, child. Yours and his are two halves of the same whole." At the mill house, Kael shares similar conversations with his pack. His beta, a grizzled wolf named Stone, expresses amazement at how naturally the alpha has adapted to working with humans. "The female has changed you," Stone observes in the wordless communication of their kind. "Made you more than you were. She's made me complete." Kael replies, watching through the window as Lyra demonstrates proper bandaging techniques to a group of young volunteers. "I never understood what I was missing until I found her." The pack exchanges knowing looks. They've all seen the transformation in their alpha, less driven by duty alone, more guided by love and hope. It makes him more effective, not less. More willing to take calculated risks, more creative in his protective strategies. Captain Drayton has undergone his own transformation. Working closely with Kael has shown him leadership styles he'd never considered. Quiet authority that inspires rather than demands. Strength used to shelter rather than intimidate. His own men have noticed the change, commenting that the captain seems more at peace with himself. "Never thought I'd say this," he confides to Thomas Ashford over evening ale. "But working with the pack has made me a better soldier. Better man, too." Thomas nods thoughtfully. "My daughter asked me yesterday why we were ever afraid of them. Couldn't give her a good answer." The town itself begins to heal. Without Voss's constant rhetoric about purity and traditional values, people relax into their natural diversity. Magic users practice their gifts openly, travelers are welcomed with genuine warmth, and children play games that celebrate differences rather than fearing them. Lyra establishes evening story circles in the town square, sharing tales of cooperation between species, of love overcoming prejudice, of strength found in unity. The stories are officially for the children, but adults find excuses to linger and listen. Kael often attends in wolf form, his massive presence somehow comforting rather than threatening, as children occasionally use him as a backrest, while Lyra weaves her tales. "Look at them," Captain Drayton murmurs to Grandmother Iris one evening as they watch a story session. 2 weeks ago, half this town wanted to see him hanged. Now their children are comfortable enough to lean against him. "Fear makes us stupid," Iris repeats her earlier wisdom. "But love makes us wise." And those two. She gestures at Kael and Lyra, who are quietly conferring about tomorrow's patrol schedules while surrounded by a peaceful crowd. They're teaching this whole town what real love looks like. The couple themselves seem to bloom in the acceptance and purpose. Their bond mark pulses with steady silver light during their evening walks, and townspeople have learned to recognize its brightness as a sign that all is well. When Lyra laughs at one of Kael's dry observations, the sound carries like music through the streets. When Kael protectively guides her around a mud puddle with gentle hands, even the most romantic souls sigh with satisfaction. They work seamlessly together. Lyra's intuitive understanding of people complementing Kael's tactical planning, his protective strength, balanced by her healing compassion. They finish each other's sentences, anticipate each other's needs, and create between them a harmony that inspires everyone around them. But beneath the surface contentment, both remain vigilantly aware that Voss is still out there. The search parties find traces of his passage, but never the man himself. He's too clever, too experienced in these woods, and his unnatural abilities make him nearly impossible to track. He's watching us, Lyra says one evening as she and Kael stand together on the mill house porch, looking out at the forest. I can feel eyes sometimes, cold and calculating. Kael's arm tightens around her waist. Let him watch. When he finally moves, we'll be ready. Will we? She asks softly. He's had weeks to plan, to prepare. And we still don't fully understand what he's become. We understand enough, Kael says with quiet confidence. He's powerful, yes, but he's also isolated. No pack, no true allies. No one who genuinely cares whether he lives or dies. He looks down at her silver-marked arm, power then, at the town below where humans and wolves work together in the gathering dusk. We have everything he threw away. Lyra nods, drawing strength from his certainty. The bond between them thrums with shared determination. Whatever comes next, they'll face it together. But in the depths of the Thornwood forest, Aldrich Voss tends his own preparations. He's learned patience in recent weeks, along with hunger that grows stronger each night. The skinwalker transformation demands regular feeding, and he's been denied his preferred prey too long. Soon, he promises himself. Soon he'll reclaim what's rightfully his and show these fools the price of defying their betters. The golden period of peace is about to end. The screams begin just after midnight. Lyra bolts upright in bed, silver bond mark blazing with alarm as Kael's own panic floods their connection. He's already shifting, human form flowing into wolf as emergency instincts take over. Outside, the night erupts into chaos. Howls from the pack mix with human shouts, the clash of steel on claw, and underneath it all, a sound that makes Lyra's blood freeze. Laughter. Cold, malicious, and utterly inhuman. He's here, comes Stone's mental voice, strained with pain. The corrupt one. The connection cuts off abruptly. Kael's wolf form bounds through the millhouse door with Lyra close behind, her healer's bag clutched in white-knuckled hands. Power. The scene outside defies comprehension. Bodies litter the town square. Some human, some wolf, all bleeding. Captain Drayton's men try to maintain formation, but they're fighting something that doesn't follow natural laws. The creature they face is massive, easily twice the size of Kael's alpha form, with fur that seems to absorb moonlight and eyes that burn with corrupt intelligence. But it's not just one creature. As they watch in horror, the thing flows and shifts, becoming smaller, faster, more human-shaped. Aldrich Voss grins at them with far too many teeth, his body a nauseating blend of man and wolf that should be impossible to sustain. "Did you miss me?" he calls out, his voice carrying unnatural harmonics that make windows rattle. "I've been so lonely in the woods, so very hungry." No. 3 of Kael's pack members lie motionless nearby. Stone struggles to stand despite a gaping wound in his flank. Captain Drayton coordinates his remaining men from behind an overturned cart, blood streaming from deep claw marks across his face. "You can't win this," Voss continues, circling like a predator toying with cornered prey. "I've become something beyond your understanding, beyond your pathetic morality and weakness." Kael stalks forward, every line of his wolf body radiating deadly intent. But Lyra catches his flank with one hand, stopping him. "Wait," she breathes. "Something's wrong. This is too easy." She's right. For all his power, Voss could have killed them all by now. Instead, he's posturing, performing, drawing out the confrontation. Why? The answer comes with a scent of smoke. "The children," Grandmother Iris's voice cracks with terror from her hiding spot. "Dear goddess, he set fire to the orphanage." And orange flames leap skyward from the building, where 23 children sleep under the care of volunteers. The same building where Lyra's mother once sheltered magical children, now burning with deliberate cruelty. Voss's grin widens impossibly. "Choose, Alpha. Fight me here while children burn, or save them and let me slaughter your mate and pack. You can't do both." The tactical brilliance is horrifying. Split the forces, divide attention, create impossible choices. Kael's pack training wars with his protective instincts while precious seconds tick away. "Oh," Lyra says firmly. "Save the children. I'll handle him." "Like hell," Kael snarls. But she's already moving. Captain Drayton makes the decision for all of them. Third squad, with the Alpha to the orphanage. Everyone else, protect the healer. It's the right call tactically, but it still feels like tearing his own heart out as Kael bounds toward the flames with half his remaining pack. Behind him, he can hear steel ring against claw as Drayton's men engage the abomination that was once their mayor. At the orphanage, the situation is even worse than expected. The building is engulfed, but worse. Something has jammed all the doors and windows from the outside. The children are trapped on the upper floors, their terrified faces visible through the smoke-hazed glass. How? Comes the mental voice of River, Kael's swiftest pack member. The fires are too hot, too fast. This isn't natural flame. Kael's mind races through options. The building is 3 stories of old wood and stone, designed more for charm than emergency evacuation. Traditional rescue attempts will take too long. Then he remembers Thomas Ashford's words. Use what's around you. Adaptability. Form up, he commands his pack. Living ladder. River, you're fastest, take my back. Jump to the 2nd floor. Fang, you follow. I'll anchor and boost. It's desperate and dangerous, but it's their only chance. The wolves position themselves with military precision, creating a pyramid of muscle and determination. Kael braces against the building's wall, as River uses his back as a launching point, his powerful legs, driving the smaller wolf up to crash through a 2nd-story window in an explosion of glass and flames. The children's screams become cheers, as River's familiar form appears in their midst. One by one, the wolf begins passing them to the window, small bodies caught by waiting human arms and carried to safety. But the fire spreads faster than their rescue efforts. The upper floor begins to sag ominously. We're not going to make it, Fang observes grimly. We are, Kael replies with absolute certainty, because failure isn't an option. Meanwhile, back in the town square, Lyra faces her own impossible situation. Voss has abandoned any pretense of humanity, flowing between forms with nauseating fluidity. One moment, he's a massive wolf snapping at Drayton's soldiers. The next, he's human-shaped, but wrong, with claws that slice through steel and speed that defies natural law. Your mother begged beautifully before I killed her, he taunts as Lyra dodges another swipe. Such lovely screams. I wonder if yours will sound as sweet? Rage blazes through her silver bond, but she channels it into focus rather than recklessness. Her healer's training included anatomy. She knows where vital organs rest, how much pressure breaks bones, which wounds disable without killing. But knowledge means nothing against an opponent who doesn't follow biological rules. Voss's claws rake across her shoulder, spinning her around. Perceive. She hits the ground hard, silver mark flaring with pain that echoes through her connection to Kael. Across town, she feels him stumble as her anguish floods their bond. No, she thinks desperately, can't distract him, the children need him. With tremendous effort, she seals off the pain, blocking it from their connection. Kael must focus on the rescue. She'll handle this alone. She'll handle this alone. But as Voss looms over her, shifting into his most terrifying form yet, Lyra realizes that some battles can't be won through courage and determination alone. Some battles require sacrifice. Lyra's blood seeps into the cobblestones as Voss circles her with predatory satisfaction. The silver bond on her arm flickers weakly, her connection to Kael deliberately muted to keep from distracting him during the rescue. Around her, Captain Drayton's remaining men form a protective circle, but they're wounded, exhausted, and facing an enemy beyond their training. Look at you, Voss croons, his voice a horrible blend of human words and animal growls. The great mate bond, reduced to a dying girl and a wolf who abandoned her for some human spawn. He laughs, the sound like breaking glass. Even your precious alpha chooses others over you when it matters. The taunt hits its mark. Despite her rational knowledge that Kael made the only possible choice, part of Lyra's heart breaks at fighting this battle alone. The children's lives matter more than her own. She knows this, accepts this, but it still hurts to face death without her mate beside her. But, as Voss prepares for the killing blow, something unexpected happens. Grandmother Iris steps out from her hiding place, moving with surprising steadiness for a woman of 93. In her gnarled hands, she carries an ornate wooden box that seems to hum with contained power. "That's far enough, abomination," she declares, her voice carrying newfound authority. Voss pauses, nostrils flaring as he scents something that makes him nervous. "Old woman, you court death by interfering." "Death and I are old friends," Iris replies calmly. "But you're something else entirely. Something that shouldn't exist." She opens the box, revealing contents that make the very air around them shimmer. Inside rest 3 items: a silver dagger inscribed with runes that seem to move in the moonlight, a vial of liquid that glows with inner fire, and a parchment covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "My grandmother's legacy," Iris explains, her milky eyes suddenly sharp with purpose. "She was the last true witch of Ravencrest, back when such knowledge was needed to keep darkness at bay." Voss snarls, his corrupted form instinctively recognizing the threat. "Parlor tricks won't save you." "Perhaps not," Iris agrees, "but they might give the child a fighting chance." She pulls the stopper from the vial, and liquid fire pours out, not onto the ground, but into the air itself, forming a barrier of pure light between Voss and his intended victims. The corrupt former mayor recoils with a shriek of pain and rage. Whatever he's become, it can't tolerate the purifying energy contained in Iris's ancestral magic. "Now, child," Iris calls to Lyra, the dagger. "It can cut through his transformations, lock him into a single form, but you have to choose which form, and you can only choose once." Lyra struggles to her feet, silver mark blazing as she draws strength from her bond with Kael. Across town, she can feel his desperate efforts at the orphanage, his terror at sensing her injury, his absolute determination to save every child before returning to her side. "Hold on," she sends through their connection. "Just hold on." The dagger feels impossibly heavy in her hands, its runes burning cold against her palm. One chance to lock Voss into a single form, but which one? Human form would make him physically weaker, but potentially more clever, more able to hide and escape. Wolf form would make him powerful but predictable, easier to track and corner. "Choose quickly," Iris warns, her barrier beginning to flicker. "The magic won't hold much longer." But Lyra is thinking of something else. The pattern of Voss's attacks, his need for psychological dominance as much as physical victory. He doesn't just want to kill them. He wants to break them first, to prove his superiority. "Neither," she says suddenly. "I choose the in-between." "What?" Iris gasps. Lyra raises the dagger, its runes flaring to match her silver bond. "You said he's an abomination because he flows between forms unnaturally. What if he couldn't flow anymore? What if he was trapped in the transformation itself?" Understanding dawns in Iris's ancient eyes. "Brilliant and terrible, child. He'd be locked in constant agony, neither human nor wolf, but forever caught between. He made that choice when he murdered innocents," Lyra says grimly. "Let him live with the consequences." She plunges the dagger into the ground at her feet, speaking words that seem to come from racial memory, from genetic knowledge passed down through generations of moon-touched bloodlines. The magic erupts outward in a wave of silver fire, washing over Voss just as Iris's barrier collapses. His scream echoes across the entire valley, a sound of pure agony as his body locks into its most unnatural state. Part human, part wolf, wholly neither. He writhes on the cobblestones as the transformation that gave him power becomes his prison. But the magic demands a price. Lyra collapses as the dagger's power drains through her, her silver bondmark flickering like a dying flame. She's poured too much of herself into the spell, given too much of her life force to fuel the binding. "Child," Iris whispers, catching her as she falls. "What have you done?" "What had to be done," Lyra gasps. Through their bond, she feels Kael's triumph as the last child is carried from the burning building, followed immediately by his terror as he senses her failing life force. He's coming, racing through the streets within human speed, his pack flowing behind him like avenging shadows. But Lyra can feel the darkness closing in, the price of the magic demanding payment. She looks up at the stars one last time, thinking of her mother, of the children now safe in their beds, of the town that will wake to peace instead of fear. It's enough. It has to be enough. I love you, she sends through their bond, pouring every ounce of devotion into the message. Remember me. The silver light begins to fade from her mark as Kael's desperate howl echoes across Ravencrest. Kael's wolf form crashes into the square just as Lyra's eyes flutter closed, her silver bond mark dim as dying starlight. The sight stops his heart. His mate, his other half, lying motionless in Grandmother Iris's arms, while the abomination that was Voss writhes in agony nearby. No, 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 no. The denial screams through his mind as he shifts to human form, dropping to his knees beside Lyra's still body. Pow. Her breathing is so shallow it's almost non-existent, her skin pale as moonlight. What did she do? He demands, gathering her against his chest with desperate gentleness. Saved us all, Iris replies, tears streaming down her weathered face. The binding required a life force sacrifice. She gave herself to lock that monster in his corrupted form. Kael's violet eyes blaze as he looks at the trapped Voss, who can no longer shift between forms but remains caught in perpetual agonizing transformation. The justice is perfect and terrible, eternal punishment for eternal crimes. But the price is too high. There has to be something, Kael snarls. Some way to reverse this, to give her back what she spent. The magic is already cast, Iris says gently. And even if it weren't, undoing it would free him. She knew that. She chose this. Through their fading bond, Kael feels the echo of Lyra's final thoughts. Love, acceptance, peace. She doesn't regret the sacrifice. But that doesn't make it hurt any less. His pack gathers around them in protective formation, their own grief a low whine that harmonizes with their alpha's breaking heart. Captain Drayton approaches carefully, his scarred face etched with respect and sorrow. The children are safe, he reports quietly. All 23, thanks to your pack's courage. The town is secure. It's over. Over. The word tastes like ashes in Kael's mouth. Victory achieved, monster defeated, innocent saved. Everything they fought for, purchased with the one thing he can't live without. She's still breathing, he says fiercely, as if defying reality itself. The bond is weak, but it's there. She's still fighting. Iris touches his shoulder with surprising strength. She's holding on for you, child, but the magic is draining her life force with every heartbeat. Unless what? Kael demands. The old woman hesitates, looking at the ornate wooden box that still glows with residual power. There's one thing. Dangerous beyond measure, and it might not work. Holler. Tell me. A soul bond. Complete fusion of life forces, sharing everything between mates. It would give her access to your strength, your longevity, your healing ability. Iris's eyes are grave, but if it fails, you both die. And even if it succeeds, you'll be forever changed. Neither fully human nor fully wolf, something new. Kael doesn't hesitate. How? Quote, the final ritual in my grandmother's grimoire. But it requires perfect unity, perfect trust, perfect love. If there's any doubt, any fear, any selfishness between you, the magic will destroy rather than heal. Around them, the town begins to gather. Thomas Ashford, his face streaked with soot from fighting the orphanage fire. The rescued children, wide-eyed and frightened but safe. Captain Drayton's surviving soldiers, battered but victorious. They come to witness, to support, to add their hopes to the desperate attempt. Kael looks down at Lyra's pale face, feeling their bond flutter like a butterfly's wings. 2 weeks of perfect harmony, of working together, of love that transformed not just them but an entire community. If any couple could achieve the perfect unity the ritual demands, surely it would be them. Tell me what to do, he says. Iris opens the grimoire to a page covered in symbols that seem to writhe in the firelight. You must speak the words together. Her soul must consent even in unconsciousness, must choose to bind herself to you completely. And if she can't? If she's too far gone to participate? And the magic fails, and she dies anyway. Iris's voice is gentle but honest. But if you don't try, she dies for certain. No choice at all, really. Kael gathers Lyra closer, pressing his forehead against hers as he begins to speak the ancient words. His voice rings out clear and strong, carrying across the square as townspeople hold their breath in desperate hope. The magic responds immediately, silver light beginning to flow between them. But something's wrong. The light flickers uncertainly, like a candle in a hurricane. Quote, "She has to participate," Iris whispers urgently. Her soul has to accept the bond willingly. Kael pours his love through their connection, calling to the mate who saved them all. "Come back to me, choose to stay. We have so much left to do together." For a moment, nothing changes. Then Lyra's lips move soundlessly, her unconscious mind responding to his plea. The ancient words spill from her barely moving mouth, spoken in a voice like distant wind. The silver light flares brilliantly, surrounding them both in a cocoon of pure energy. The assembled crowd gasps as they see the impossible. Two separate beings beginning to merge at the deepest level, souls intertwining like DNA strands. Pain lances through Kael as the transformation begins. His human consciousness expands to accommodate wolf instincts. His wolf nature learns to embrace human emotion. He's being rebuilt from the inside out, every cell, every thought, every memory reshaping itself. And through it all, he can feel Lyra's presence growing stronger, her life force drawing on his supernatural resilience, her human warmth tempering his predatory edge. But the magic demands more than he expected. Not just unity between them, but acknowledgement from the community they protect. The ritual feeds on love, on acceptance, on the bonds between all souls present. One by one, the townspeople begin to add their voices to the ancient chant. They don't know the words, but they understand the intention. Thomas Ashford steps forward first, then Captain Drayton, then the children they saved. Even Grandmother Iris raises her voice, 93 years of wisdom, lending power to the desperate magic. The silver light explodes outward, washing over everyone present. When it fades, Kael and Lyra lie intertwined in the town square, both breathing, both alive, but forever changed. Their bond mark has evolved, no longer just on Lyra's arm, but mirrored on Kael's chest, twin spirals of silver fire that pulse in perfect synchronization. They are still themselves, but also something more, something new. Something that might just be strong enough to face whatever darkness the future brings. Lyra's eyes flutter open to find herself staring into familiar violet depths. But something has changed. Where once she saw Kael's eyes alone, now she glimpses herself reflected back, not just in the physical sense, but soul deep. Their consciousness touches at the edges, separate but connected, like two rivers flowing into the same sea. "Did it work?" she whispers, her voice stronger than it has any right to be. "Better than we dared hope," Kael replies, helping her sit up with hands that shake slightly. Looks older somehow, marked by the profound experience of literally sharing his life force with another being. "How do you feel?" Lyra takes careful inventory. The silver bond mark pulses with warm light, no longer just on her arm, but somehow threaded through her entire being. She can sense Kael's wolf nature like a steady presence at the back of her mind, protective and fierce but utterly devoted. More surprisingly, she can sense his pack, Stone's gruff affection, River's playful energy, Fang's quiet loyalty, complete, she says finally, like I've been living half a life and didn't know it. Around them, the townspeople watch in awed silence. The ritual has left its mark on everyone present, not transforming them as it has the bonded pair, but creating connections, understanding, empathy where none existed before. Captain Drayton finds himself genuinely comprehending pack dynamics for the first time. Thomas Ashford suddenly knows why the wolves patrol certain paths and not others. The children understand that magic isn't something to fear, but something to respect. But the most dramatic change is in the creature that was once Aldrich Voss. The binding Lyra created has locked him in a state of constant transformation, neither human nor wolf but trapped between forms. The agony should be unbearable, and is, but something unexpected has begun happening. The pure love and sacrifice that powered the binding is slowly burning away the corruption that created him. He lies curled on the cobblestones, no longer the terrifying abomination but something pitiful and small. His eyes, when he opens them, are fully human for the first time in months. Confused, horrified, desperately seeking forgiveness from a world he nearly destroyed. "I remember," he gasps, his voice hoarse with pain and remorse. "Dear God, I remember what I did, what I became." Grandmother Iris kneels beside him with surprising compassion. "The corruption is burning away, but slowly. You'll remember every evil act, feel the full weight of every life you took." Her voice is stern but not without mercy. "Whether you survive the process depends on how much humanity remains beneath the monster." It's a kind of justice neither Kael nor Lyra had anticipated. Not death or eternal torment, but the chance for genuine redemption through absolute accountability. The ritual's love-powered magic is giving Voss exactly what he needs most: the ability to truly understand what he's done and choose differently. "The children," Voss whispers, tears streaming down his malformed face. "The families I destroyed, how do I—" "One day at a time," Lyra says quietly, her voice carrying new authority. The fusion with Kael has given her not just his strength, but his alpha's instinct for justice tempered by mercy. "You start by choosing to live with the pain instead of inflicting it on others." Captain Drayton approaches carefully, still trying to process everything he's witnessed. "What happens now?" "Legally speaking, Voss committed crimes that demand punishment, but if he's truly being transformed, he'll remain in custody," Kael declares, rising to his feet with fluid grace. "But under healing supervision, not traditional imprisonment. If genuine redemption is possible, we have to allow for it." "And if it's not?" Thomas asks pragmatically. "Then the binding will complete its work, and nature will take its course," Iris explains. "Either he finds his humanity again, or the corruption consumes what's left of his original soul. The magic gives him choice, not guarantees." The crowd begins to disperse, exhaustion finally overtaking amazement. The crisis is over, the immediate threat ended, but everyone understands that the real work is just beginning. Building trust, healing wounds, creating something better from the ashes of fear and hatred. As dawn breaks over Ravencrest, Kael and Lyra stand together in the town square, hands intertwined, bond marks glowing softly in the morning light. They are no longer quite the same beings who fell in love in simpler times, but they are together, and that makes any transformation worthwhile. "What are we now?" Lyra asks, wonder in her voice as she senses new depths to her own abilities. She can hear heartbeats from across the square, smell emotions on the wind, feel the pulse of life from every living thing in their territory. "Something new," Kael replies, his own enhanced senses cataloging dozens of scents and sounds that would have escaped him before. "Power something that's never existed before." "Power, are you afraid?" she asks. He considers the question seriously. They've gained power beyond anything they imagined, but power always comes with responsibility. They'll be protectors not just of Ravencrest, but potentially of anyone who needs their help. They'll live longer than normal humans, but not quite as long as traditional alphas. They'll be forever changed, forever bound, forever walking the line between mortal and supernatural. "No," he says finally, "we'll face whatever comes together. That's enough for me." Their bond mark pulses with shared contentment, silver light spreading through the square like a benediction. The sun rises fully, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, promising new beginnings for everyone brave enough to embrace them. In the distance, church bells begin to ring. Not in alarm this time, but in celebration. Ravencrest has survived its darkest hour and found something beautiful on the other side. The real adventure is just beginning. 3 months later, Ravencrest has become something unprecedented, a haven where humans and supernatural beings coexist not just peacefully but prosperously. Word has spread throughout the region, drawing refugees from less tolerant communities, scholars eager to study the new social dynamics, and pilgrims seeking to witness the famous bonded pair who united two species. Kael and Lyra have adapted to their transformed existence with surprising grace, though not without challenges. Their enhanced abilities require constant practice to control. Lyra accidentally shattered 3 teacups before learning to moderate her newfound strength, while Kael had to relearn how to interact with purely human individuals without overwhelming them with supernatural presence. The bond between them has deepened beyond anything the old texts described. They can communicate wordlessly across miles, share sensory experiences, even temporarily exchange abilities when circumstances demand it. Lyra has gained enough of Kael's alpha nature to command respect from visiting wolf packs, while Kael's newfound human empathy makes him an unprecedentedly effective mediator in supernatural disputes. "You're glowing again," Captain Drayton observes as he joins them on the rebuilt town hall steps. He's officially retired from military service to become Ravencrest's first supernatural affairs coordinator, a role that involves everything from mediating disputes between pixies and merchants to establishing protocols for dragon flyovers. Lyra laughs, looking down at her silver mark. Does indeed pulse with soft light whenever she experiences deep contentment. Hard not to glow when everything's going so well. And things are going well. The orphanage has been rebuilt with donations from across the kingdom, now serving not just human children but young beings from a dozen different species. Thomas Ashford's blacksmith shop has become a meeting place where humans learn to work with supernatural crafted metals, while supernatural beings discover the simple joy of human engineering. Even Grandmother Iris has found new purpose. Established as Ravencrest's official memory keeper, recording the stories and traditions of every species that settles in their growing community. At 93, she's busier than she's been in decades. But perhaps the most remarkable transformation has occurred in the creature that was once Aldrich Voss. The binding continues, its slow work, burning away decades of accumulated corruption, while forcing him to confront every evil choice he made. The process is agonizing, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but genuine change is becoming visible. His form has stabilized into something more human than not, though marked by scars that serve as permanent reminders of what he became. "He asked to see you again," Captain Drayton reports quietly. Still insists he doesn't deserve forgiveness, but he's requesting permission to help with the orphanage reconstruction. Manual labor only, under constant supervision. Kael and Lyra exchange a look, their bond allowing instant consultation without words. They've visited Voss weekly since the crisis ended, monitoring his progress, offering guidance when appropriate, always ready to act if the corruption resurfaces. "What do you think?" Lyra asks aloud, including Drayton in the decision. "Honestly, I think he's genuine," the captain replies. "The guilt is eating him alive, but he's choosing to live with it, rather than escape into madness or death. That takes a kind of courage I didn't think he possessed." They find Voss in the modified holding cell that serves as his quarters, comfortable but secure, warded against transformation but not against hope. He looks up as they enter, his too familiar face, marked by suffering but also by something new, humility. "I've been thinking about the children," he says without preamble. "The ones I orphaned, the ones I terrorized, the ones who might still have nightmares about monsters." His voice breaks slightly. Quote, "I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can help build something better for the next generation. I can." The labor would be purely voluntary, Kael clarifies. No reduction in confinement, no special privileges, just the chance to contribute something positive. "I understand," Voss replies. "I'm not looking for redemption through good works. I just power I need to do something useful with whatever time I have left." The humility is genuine. Lyra's enhanced empathy can sense no deception, no hidden agenda. The binding has stripped away his ability to manipulate and control, leaving only the basic human need to matter in some positive way. Supervised work detail, she decides. Dawn to dusk, building and maintenance only. Any sign of backsliding, any hint of the old corruption, and it stops immediately. "Thank you," Voss whispers. And the gratitude is so raw it's almost painful to witness. As they leave the makeshift prison, Kael shakes his head in amazement. 6 months ago, I would have said genuine redemption was impossible for someone like him. 6 months ago, we didn't know that love could literally transform souls. Lyra replies, "Maybe we're all capable of more change than we realize." That evening, they stand together on the hill overlooking Ravencrest, watching the lights come on in windows throughout the town. Human families settle in for the night alongside elven traders, dwarf craftsmen, and fairy messengers. Children play in yards, while their supernatural neighbors tend gardens that bloom in impossible colors. "Do you ever miss how simple things used to be?" Lyra asks, leaning into Kael's warmth. Never, he replies immediately. Simple was lonely. Simple was incomplete. He tightens his arms around her. Hey, this is messy and complicated and sometimes exhausting, but it's real. It's ours. Their bond mark pulses with shared satisfaction, silver light spreading between them like a promise. They've built something unprecedented here. Not just a community where differences are tolerated, but one where they're celebrated as strengths. The transformation isn't complete. There are still those who view Ravencrest with suspicion or outright hostility. Still communities that forbid supernatural beings. Still individuals who believe that power should be used to dominate rather than protect. But change has begun, spreading outward in ripples that will touch lives they'll never know. Other communities are experimenting with integration. Other leaders are choosing cooperation over conquest. Other hearts are opening to possibilities they never imagined. And, at the center of it all, two souls who found each other across impossible odds continue to prove that love really can transform the world. 1 year after the crisis that nearly destroyed Ravencrest, the town square fills with celebration. The annual Unity Festival draws visitors from across the continent, all eager to witness the miracle of genuine cooperation between species. Market stalls overflow, with goods crafted through supernatural human collaboration. Silk spun by spiderfolk and woven by human artisans. Metalwork forged with dragonfire and shaped by skilled blacksmiths. Potions brewed with elven herbs and human knowledge. Children of a dozen different species play together in the fountain, their laughter echoing off buildings that have been rebuilt stronger and more beautiful than before. At the festival's heart, Kael and Lyra move through the crowds with easy grace, greeting visitors and mediating disputes with the natural authority of beloved leaders. Their bond marks have evolved again, now showing intricate patterns that seem to shift and dance in response to their emotions. When they're truly happy, both marks blaze with silver fire bright enough to be seen even in daylight. Hard to believe it's only been a year, Thomas Ashford comments as he joins them near the central stage. His own life has transformed remarkably. His blacksmith shop now employs 3 supernatural apprentices. And his daughter is engaged to a young man whose pointed ears and silver eyes mark him as half-elven. Best year of my life, his daughter Marie adds, appearing with her fiancé Sylvander in tow. I can't imagine living in one of those places, where people are afraid of anyone different. The sentiment is echoed throughout the crowd. Ravencrest has become more than just tolerant. It's become genuinely integrated, with mixed marriages, shared businesses, power and collaborative art projects that would have been unthinkable a year ago, Captain Drayton approaches with his daily security report, though security has taken on a very different meaning. Instead of watching for threats, his people now coordinate between various community groups, help newly arrived refugees find housing and work, and manage the logistics of hosting thousands of festival visitors. No incidents today, he reports. Though we did have to mediate a dispute between the dragon delegation and the ice fairy traders. Apparently, there are strong opinions about proper temperature for precious metal displays. Kael chuckles. How did you resolve it? Separate market sections with climate control barriers. Drayton replies proudly. The Earth mages were happy to help once they understood the problem. It's exactly the kind of creative, cooperative solution that has made Ravencrest famous throughout the region. Problems that once would have led to conflict now become opportunities for innovation. Speaking of innovation, Lyra says, nodding toward a modest figure working at one of the construction booths. How's our special project manager doing? They all turn to watch Aldrich Voss as he carefully measures lumber for a new playground structure. The year of redemptive work has continued transforming him. His physical form is now completely human, though scarred. And his demeanor reflects genuine humility earned through constant confrontation with his past crimes. He's not popular, likely never will be, but he's become useful. His construction projects are solid and thoughtful, his work ethic is impeccable, and his absolute honesty about his past has created a kind of trust through transparency. The binding's nearly complete, Grandmother Iris observes, joining their small group. At 94, she's still sharp as a blade, and busier than ever documenting the unprecedented social changes. Another few months, and he'll be fully human again. Mortal lifespan, normal abilities, but with complete memory of what he was. And then? Drayton asks. Then he chooses his own path? Kael replies, the magic will have given him every opportunity for genuine change. What he does with it becomes entirely his responsibility. It's a philosophy that extends beyond just Voss. Everyone in Ravencrest lives by the principle that the past informs the present, but doesn't have to define the future. Second chances are earned through action, not just words, and redemption remains possible for those willing to do the hard work of genuine change. As the sun begins to set, painting the festival in shades of gold and crimson, Kael and Lyra climb to the platform where they were once prepared to watch an execution. Now it serves as a speaking stage where leaders from different communities share ideas and solutions. 5. Citizens of Ravencrest. Kael begins, his voice carrying easily across the crowded square. A year ago, fear nearly destroyed our community. Tonight, we celebrate what we built from those ashes. The crowd quiets, hundreds of faces turning toward the platform. Humans stand beside elves, dwarfs chat with fairies, and dragonkin share space with ordinary merchants. It's a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just 12 months ago. We learned that our differences aren't weaknesses to hide, Lyra continues, her silver mark blazing with gentle light. They're strengths to celebrate. Every challenge we've faced has been solved not by forcing conformity, but by combining our unique abilities. A cheer rises from the crowd, but it's not the bloodthirsty roar that once demanded an innocent man's death. This is joy. Pure, uncomplicated happiness at belonging to something larger than themselves. Tomorrow, delegations return to their own communities, Kael says. We ask that you take with you not just trade goods and political agreements, but hope. Hope that cooperation is possible, that understanding can overcome fear, that love really can transform the world. As the formal speeches end and the evening's entertainment begins, Kael and Lyra slip away from the crowd. They walk hand in hand through streets that bustle with activity, past homes where families of multiple species share dinners and stories, toward the hill that overlooks their transformed community. Any regrets? Kael asks as they reach their favorite viewing spot. Lyra considers the question seriously. The past year has brought challenges neither of them anticipated. Their transformation has left them somewhat isolated from purely human or purely supernatural communities. They'll never have completely normal lives, never blend invisibly into crowds, never escape the responsibility that comes with their unique abilities. But as she looks down at Ravencrest, at children playing games that span cultural traditions, at merchants haggling in 3 different languages, at couples whose love bridges species gaps, she knows her answer. Only that we didn't start sooner, she says, laughing as Kael spins her around in a spontaneous dance. Their bond marks flare with synchronized joy, silver light spreading between them, before flowing outward to touch everything within sight. For a moment, the entire town seems to glow with the same radiant happiness. They've proven that love can indeed conquer fear, that understanding can triumph over hatred, that cooperation creates something far more beautiful than any individual achievement. They've shown that transformation, personal, social, magical, is not just possible but inevitable when people choose connection over isolation. As night falls over Ravencrest, festivals continue in the streets below. Music drifts upward, human melodies woven with elven harmonies, dragon song bass notes supporting fairy chimes. It's chaotic and beautiful and utterly unique, like the community that created it. Kael and Lyra hold each other close, watching their chosen family celebrate everything they've built together. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to prove that a better world is possible. True. Tonight, they simply exist in the glow of love fulfilled, duty honored, and hope made manifest. Their story began with chains and the threat of execution, with fear and misunderstanding, and the assumption that some differences are too great to overcome. It ends with freedom and celebration, with love and understanding, and proof that no difference is too great when hearts are open to possibility. The silver bonds on their arms pulse one final time, bright enough to be seen from every corner of Ravencrest. A promise and a reminder that some connections transcend every boundary, overcome every obstacle, and endure through every transformation. In the distance, church bells begin to ring, not in alarm or mourning, but in pure celebration of everything beautiful that grows from the soil of genuine love. The future stretches ahead, bright with infinite possibility,